are Heather and Paul Christie.
And for over 12 years, we've worked with executives and entrepreneurs to accelerate change in every aspect of their business.
Because we are in the fastest paced business environment that anyone has ever seen before.
So join us for the Evolve to Win Show. Hey everybody, welcome to another Evolve to Win show with Paul and Heather.
Hey, I'm so excited and I want you to welcome Kendrick Shope to the show today. Welcome, Kendrick.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Kendrick.
Hey, Paul.
Oh my gosh. So we're so thrilled to have Kendrick on the show today. And for those of you listening, you're in for a huge treat, especially those of you who are women entrepreneurs, because Kendrick has built the most amazing company. She's the creator of the leading sales training for women entrepreneurs, Sales School, and Authentic Selling, which has created millions of dollars in revenue and business for her clients. So Kendrick has really created something special for women entrepreneurs. Now, she also hosts a podcast and a TV show, which is called Sell Like a Woman. You gotta love that, right?
I know.
And she has nearly 100,000 followers in 6 different continents. So like, Kendrick, you're a really big deal. And I'm so excited to have you with us on this show. She's also been featured on shows like the Steve Harvey Show, NBC, Forbes, Inc., and more. And she lives in Bentonville, Arkansas with her husband and her Star Wars loving daughter. So Kendrick, I'm super excited.
Funny.
Like, I hope you didn't have to pass up another Steve Harvey Show to be with us today, but we appreciate
No, I am thrilled and honored to be here. And I'll make a comment to that big deal. At least in my mama and my daddy's eyes, I'm a really big deal. Other than that, not so much.
Well, I've gotten to know you a little bit and talk with you before. And I tell you what, guys, we're really in for a treat because Kendrick has truly developed this brand that has just exploded. And the reason that she's got as many followers as she has is because of the results that she's producing for her clients. And we're going to really get into that in a moment. But I want to first hear just a little bit about your background and how you jumped from your corporate America gig into owning your own business and becoming sort of a, TV show celebrity. So share with us your background, if you would, please, Kendrick.
Yeah, absolutely. So I sold for 3 Fortune 500 companies I sold drugs, but the legal kind. I was a pharmaceutical salesperson, and I was a top performing sales rep for 3 Fortune 500 companies for over a decade. And I was good at my job. Like a lot of people liked my job, wouldn't say I loved my job, but liked my job. And I kind of had it made, at least I thought so. And then our whole world was shaken up when I had our daughter, Hallianna. Okay. And I can remember rocking her to sleep one night when she was about 2 years old. And I tell her, and still do, every night, you can be anything you want to be in this world. All you have to do is believe. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. She's going to one day understand what those words mean. And she's going to say, Mommy, did you want to sell drugs for a living? Was that your big dream? Is that what you believed in? And so I put her in the bed, in the crib, and I burst into our bedroom in Chicago. And I said to my husband, I am living a lie. I was even more country then, if you can imagine that. He's pretty used to me being dramatic. He didn't even look up. And I said, no. You need to pay attention because I have to be the role model for this little girl that she can make anything happen. And from there, I went on a mission nonstop to figure out what it was I wanted to do. I wish I could tell you that I stumbled right into this authentic selling thing and it just took off from there. But like anything else, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of wrong turns. And eventually I created the authentic selling process.
So that's really incredible. It's like you heard your own advice. You're giving your advice to your young daughter and you heard yourself say those words and you took your own advice.
Yeah, it took me 2 years. I mean, I had literally been saying those same words to her from, I believe, and to my recollection, from the moment I brought her home from the hospital. So it took me 2 years to hear my own advice. But I'm one of those people that I have light bulb moments. I will trudge around in the mud, and then I'll have a light bulb moment, and I'll be like, oh, this is the path. This is the path out of the mud. And so that's kind of what happened.
Fantastic.
So obviously you're a very dynamic person. And so I'm always very interested in finding out what you feel like made you a top salesperson.
Well, I think there are two things. Number one, I didn't do it the way that everybody was trained to do. What I mean by that is I'm from the South, big shocker. And
we could hardly tell.
I know, right? And in the South, we do things differently. We forge long-lasting relationships. Manners matter. Not that they don't matter other places, but it would be very uncomfortable for me to barge into somebody's house and say, you need to do X, Y, and Z because I'm the expert and I say so. And so I viewed my doctor's offices like their house. I mean, and they spend as much time in their office as they do their homes. And so I wanted to earn the right to sell them rather than, go for the close. I wanted to forge relationships and make relationships. And it served me well because as the industry changed and reps were being shut out of offices, I got to stay because I was an extension of the office. I was a friend, if you will, or at least a business friend. So I think that's one reason. The second reason is I am like a cockroach. I am impossible to kill. I will keep coming back over and over and over. And so when I took over, in one of my jobs, our territory was last in the country. And by the end of that year, we were first. And that comes from great partners that I worked with. I didn't do it. Great partners, great doctors, and unwillingness to stay last. So I think those are the two things. I think doing things differently and being ridiculously determined.
That's like the relentless persistence, right? Like I that's what I think of when you say you're like a cockroach. You're just like, you are relentless. That's really cool.
Well, so you're persistent and you're relentless. But what is your mindset on a daily basis? What gets you in that mindset to be able to say, because there's a ton of salespeople that listen to this podcast. There are just tons of salespeople out there in the world, and there's very few that are very, very productive. And I think a lot of people always want to know, like, what makes the difference in a top salesperson and somebody who's not? And we know it has a lot to do with persistence. There's no doubt about that. But when you woke up in the morning, made you say, I got to go back to that doctor's office, the one that never hasn't seen me for 10 times, and now they're going to see me, or I'm going to give them a call. What is that? How's it work for you?
So what a great question, by the way. So I think that there are a couple of things that, and you use the word mindset, and I think that that's very important. I start my day before I even get in the shower. I have a little notebook at my vanity, and I write, and it's just a really one small page, perfect little square, probably about, the size of a square. And I write down, today is going to be a great day because, and this is who I'm going to impact today. Because I thoroughly believe that it is our job. It is our obligation. It is our responsibility to impact somebody's life in a positive way every day we can. Then when I transition into my desk, I do it again. So, I go through all the mommy routine of cooking breakfast, getting my daughter out the door, and that can be hectic. And so I try to center myself. And again, and sometimes they're different things. What I started out with the morning of today's going to be a great day. And then I transitioned into my office. Today's going to be a great day because here's what we're going to do. That's number one. Number two, so I think starting the day positively and in the right mindset and really trying to make it less about me and more about who can we impact in a positive way, which transitions into the second thing, which is I believe it is our obligation to think about the people that we are serving. Public service is a calling, and I think we're all called to public service. You don't have to be a politician to be called to public service. If you live and breathe on this earth, you are serving the public in some way or have the opportunity to. And so while one person sees that 10th or 11th call as a sales rep going in to talk to a doctor to get their drug on the shelf, I see it as, no, it's the 11th call because someone out there is suffering and needs this medication. Someone out there is suffering, from a broken bone. I sold an osteoporotic drug, and someone out there is missing an opportunity to play with his or her grandchildren because they don't have this drug. So I may get turned away 15 times or 500 times, but for that woman, osteoporosis is a disease that this was only for women, this drug. For that woman who needs this drug, I'm going to make that call because that is what I was put here to do, to serve others.
Got it.
I really like the message of that. And I think that your message, your mindset actually translates to everybody who's selling a product or service, right? Is that I am going to show up today and I'm going to keep going and I'm going to keep reaching out and I'm going to keep talking to whoever I need to talk to because someone out there today is suffering because they don't have my product or service.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you start with that as your baseline, when you start with that, because I think, all success in life comes from the formula of not just what we're doing, like the fact that I'm picking up the phone and I have the skill to say the right things on a sales call, but also who we're being. And if at your core, who you're being is somebody who wants to help someone else out there who's suffering, that's a very different being than I'm being, someone who just wants to sell this product because I've got to make my commission.
That's exactly right.
That's
right.
huge.
And I think that, I will say, it's not lost on me that is, I'm about to use a double negative, get real Southern. It's not lost on me that that's difficult to do every day. I mean, it's real easy to talk yourself out and roll your eyes and say, oh, come on, Kendrick. Really? Some granny's not playing with her grandkid because you didn't make a call? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty selfish of you to think that you have that much impact over the world. So I get it's real easy to beat yourself up and talk yourself down. But here's what I do know. There are examples throughout history of sales reps and non-sales reps, of politicians, of all kinds of people who believed that public service was a calling, who believed that their birthright was to make this world a better place. And they impacted the lives of millions. And so from my small little station in life, if I can impact the life of one person every day or most days, that's 300 people, 365 people, whatever, whose lives may be better because I said, yeah, it's not enough just to make the sale. There has to be a reason behind the sale, the close.
Yeah.
Are you saying then that being a good salesperson is being somebody that's altruistic?
Yeah, in some ways. I think this is one of the ways that separates men and women, and it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just is. Mm-hmm. So, women's brains and men's brains are different. Women have verbal communication centers on the left side of the brain and on the right side of the brain. And I believe, based on my experience, that women really need to be sold on the product that they're selling. And the best way to do that for women is to tap into that nurturing vibe that we are born with, that we come into this world with because we're going to deliver babies. Not that men can't have it. That's not what I mean. And of course, I'm using generalizations to talk about gender differences here, and there are exceptions. But when you tap into that nurturing part of a woman's DNA and you say, actually, this is more than just another check in the Avista column or whatever. It is a check in improving someone's life. She's going to be passionate. She's going to be able to go out and say, and maybe all people, I can't speak for men. So maybe this is the same for men too. And I just don't know because I'm not a man, but it lights a fire that is so much harder to put out than, hey, your quota is 100 closes today, which I love quotas, by the way, ridiculously determined. You give me 100, I'm going to try to get 120. I mean, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I need the story. If it's just about numbers, it's cold. I need the story. And my experience is most women do too.
Kendrick, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this distinction between males and females. And although I think that you're right, a lot of what you've just said, maybe all of what you've just said can apply to men as well. My question is, do you find that females have a more difficult time believing in themselves?
Absolutely, 100%.
And why do you think that is?
I wish I knew. What I can tell you is I had this conversation just yesterday with someone about, my daughter, she's 9. She grows up in a house that is very much believe in yourself. Like I said, I've been telling her that since she was born.
Yeah.
Anything you want to believe, all you got to do is believe. And yet she's hit that stage where her brain chemistry is changing, where things are going on that go on in adolescent girls that makes me kind of want to crawl in a hole and just hide. But, and I'm starting to see her self-confidence go down. Even though we are like the epitome of filling her up. Yeah. So I think that part of this is nature. Women's brain chemistry changes or can change every single day throughout adolescence to the time we die. Men's does not. This doesn't have as much to do with, well, it does with hormones, but think about that. Women are a mess of contradictions. If your brain chemistry can alter a little bit every day, it explains why one day you are as confident as Beyonce, and the next day you are like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed. The whole world's ending, right?
See, so it's my brain. It's not me.
Exactly.
It's my brain. You got to be forgiving.
Exactly. So I wish that I had the answer, but I don't. But what I do know is and this is a little bit of what separates the way men and women get what they want. We have to accept that is, the DNA that we were given. That's the hand, the cards we were dealt. And so rather than fight against it, let's learn how to embrace it. Let's do the things we need to do to keep our mindset positive, whatever that is. For me, and this sounds absolutely insane, but it's true. A good manicure improves my mood and mindset so much.
Mm-hmm.
If I look down and my nails are beat off or chewed off or whatever,
mm-hmm.
I will instantly go into, this is a true story. I will instantly go into, you are so poor with time management that you can't even make time to go get a manicure. How in the world could you run a business or change lives because you can't go get a manicure? That's the silliest cycle ever, but we do it. And so being aware that that's the hand we've been dealt, and then what do we need to do to keep our mindset up, to keep us positive so that we can serve others?
Gosh, my little voice says the exact same thing that your little voice says. It's so funny. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about keeping that positive mindset, because I want to find out from you, what percentage of success do you think is based on mindset? How important is that in the scheme of things?
Well, you've stumped me, because I think that without a positive, I think it is the deal breaker. I think so. To what percentage? I don't know, at least half. If you don't have a positive mindset, I don't care how skilled you are. If you don't have a positive mindset, at some point, something will happen that will knock you off your game, and it's going to be really difficult for you to keep going. So I think that rather than a percentage, I think it is the thing that we must have. Now, it doesn't mean what I am not saying is it's impossible to experience success with a bad mindset. Lots of people do. Mm-hmm. But it is the consistency and the staying power that a positive mindset and the ability to impact real change that a positive mindset gives you. Anybody can have a good day or a good year or a good month, right? And that's fantastic. But if you can't pick yourself up when everybody goes away and you're down on that bathroom floor crying your eyes out, it's always a bathroom floor for me, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
So this podcast is really focused on leaders, and of course, sales managers are leaders and have to drive the sales force. And how is it? So how do sales managers really use what you teach in your authentic selling to, how does that work as far as using as a sales manager?
So there are 5 foundations of authentic selling. Mm-hmm. Number 1 is belief. And so I believe, and I was lucky. I had some wonderful managers in my time in pharma sales. And the best ones were the one who actually helped us believe in ourselves, helped us believe in the difference that our product or service was making. In this case, it was a product. And also focus some on that mindset. So step number 1 is, it's not all about the numbers. You want a team that's going to go out there and rise from the bottom to the top. My gosh, help them believe in themselves. Help them know what to do when they're driving that car and they really just want to swing in and have a really long lunch by themselves, because we can do that as sales reps. Nobody's watching us. Who want to go to Target and spend $300, $400 because they don't want to go see that doctor for the 15th time. So it's actually providing us with the skill sets to know what to do when we feel that way, to self-coach. I think that's super important. So number 1 is belief, not just in your products and services, but in your ability to make a difference and what to do when things get hard. Number 2 is consistency. This is where the cockroach thing comes in, right? I mean, you got to be ridiculously determined, and the people who win are consistent. So for sales rep and sales managers, what I would say is, this is old school. This is Zig Ziglar, old school. Set a route and stick to it. Go to your cardiologist in wherever, Newton, Georgia at 8 a.m. every Tuesday, if that works. Find out when they're going to be there. And on Tuesday, you don't even have to think about where you're going to go. Mm-hmm. I literally went to the same offices Marvelous Monday, Terrific Tuesday, Wonderful Wednesday. I don't remember what Thursday was, and Fun Friday. My cardiologist knew I was going to be in their office on their given day. So much that when I was on vacation, the staff would call and say, "Where are you? It's Terrific Tuesday." So,
late.
Yes, belief, consistency, follow-up. follow-up and consistency are go hand in hand, but 50% of all sales are closed in follow-up communication. So you just need to know that. You want a tool to win, to close more sales, to make more money, to help more people. Follow up. And I don't just mean go back to the office. That could be a handwritten note to the admin. That could be a book that you drop off to the nurse whose son is playing for the University of Tennessee football about tradition at the University of Tennessee. I don't care. Look for creative ways to follow up.
I got to stop you there for just 1 second. I mean, in each one of these steps you've given so far, there's so many great nuggets that I think our listeners can be latching onto and using for themselves. But I wanted to make that point and just reiterate the fact that you said 50% of deals are closed in follow-up. How many times do we go once after someone and then we don't do the appropriate follow-up?
80% of the time.
Happens all the time. I think about people who have tried to sell to me, and I actually want to buy, but I'm too busy or it slipped my mind and I don't want to, I just haven't taken the initiative to do the follow-up with them. And I just sit there and think, why haven't you called me back? I was in your office. I actually showed you every buying signal possible. I'm just I'm busy. So call me and sell to me. You know what I mean?
Make it easy for you to buy.
Incredible. What's that?
Make it easy for you to buy, right?
Make it easy for me to buy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Follow up. Yeah. Huge. Okay. What's number 4?
So belief, consistency, follow up. Oh, number 4 is my favorite. Okay. Create a raving fan with every interaction. So one of the mistakes that a lot of salespeople make, and they teach this now, so that maybe they don't make it as much, but is that every person in that office matters. There's big talk about the gatekeeper and how you get past the gatekeeper. And rather than approaching the gatekeeper as this big knight with metal and armor that you have to get past, how about I get to know them? I'll never forget one of my gatekeepers, the lady at the front desk, had written a book. And I could not get back to see the office for 3 months, but I knew she had written a book. She gave me a copy of the book. I read the book. I went back and talked to her about the book. I eventually got back because I am a decent person and because she liked me. So create a raving fan with every interaction. And that is an opportunity to impact someone in a positive way. It doesn't have to be your physician or the CEO or the person you're calling on that day. Mm-hmm. Make a name for yourself in the office. Tell them you're different. Every physician I met, I would shake their hand and I would say, I'm Kendrick Shope, your new whatever rep. And the one thing I can promise you is I'm going to be unlike any other rep you've ever met. And I walked away. That was it. No pitch, no nothing. And lots of times they'd say, wait, come back. What do you mean? What's that mean? Especially in the South. So I think it's important to say, how can you create a raving fan with every interaction?
Yes. So Kendrick, you have a 5th.
I do. And this is the whole premise of authentic selling. It's why authentic selling exists. So if you feel the ick, the sleaze, the slime, the sludge, find a better way. What I mean by that is so many people are afraid of selling. I read an article and I don't know if this is true or not. I don't have the source to cite the research, but it said the number 1 fear among people is public speaking, right? We all know that. Mm-hmm. The number 2 fear, according to this article I read, is selling. That's a problem. If selling is the key to get what you want and it's our number 2 fear, we got a problem. So the good news is we've got a brain. If you feel icky about something you are doing to sell a product or service, use that brain, put it to work and find a better way, period. Because there's always a better way.
I love your 5 strategies here to authentic selling. And I'm going to be kind of noodling on those a little bit. And what I really want to find out is, Kendrick, you are such an outgoing, magnetic, charismatic person. I imagine that there are some women who watch you and listen to you and just look and say, oh my gosh, I could never be like Kendrick. What do you say to those people who don't have that very natural, outgoing and vibrant personality that you have?
Yeah.
They do it like you do it? Do they do it the way they should do it?
They do it the way they should do it. So I am an extrovert times a million. I crave interaction with people like human beings crave air. I need it. You want to see me depressed and almost able to kill me instead of being impossible to kill? Take away my interaction with human beings. I need it. But I also understand and have learned that people are introverts, right? There are just as many people who do not crave human interaction as there are people like me. And so that's what foundation number 5 is all about. If you feel the ick, the sleaze, the slime, the sludge, let's find a way that works for you. And so follow-up is something that comes to mind. If I'm going to follow up, I'm usually going to shoot a quick video because I'm a verbal processor, because I like video, because it's easier for me. But if you're an introvert, that may make you want to crawl over in the hole and bury yourself. Great, then let's use black and white. Let's hide behind that computer. I got no problem with that. Let's type the follow-up. That's what foundation number 5 gives you the permission and the ability to be able to do.
So Kendrick, I love what you're saying. And, when I was in sales, one of the challenges that I had was that I'm more of an introverted person. So I like more one-on-one contact. I have to admit that I used to hide a lot because I just didn't like going in and introducing myself and being around a group of people and having to get to know everybody. But I did find some ways that really worked for me. And a lot of them were, just really getting to know a person on a one-to-one basis. So that gatekeeper and just spending time with them. But I did find that, because I really didn't work through the whole process and really understand what worked for me the best, it was, coming up with that plan and having somebody, I don't think I ever engaged my sales manager to really help me find what was the thing that would work the best for me. So I really didn't feel like I got a lot of coaching from that, and I didn't really ever ask for it. I just felt like I could do it out of my own. So I think for sales managers, this is really great what you've just brought up, is to get engaged with your sales team, but don't treat everybody exactly the same. Everybody's different, and you are going to have. I've seen many fantastic introverted type of salespeople that were awesome, and then you see your typical ones that are outgoing and driving and all that. So there isn't one cookie cutter for every great salesperson, but you as a sales manager have to really understand how to coach each individual.
Well, and I'm going to absolutely. And I'm going to piggyback on that. I think that industries as a whole in corporate America has got to stop promoting great salespeople to sales managers just because they were a great salesperson.
Amen to
that. You are a great salesperson doesn't mean you can lead. So if you've got, 10 reps who are reporting to you and 4 introverts and 3 are extroverts, and then the other ones don't even know what those words mean, you need to be able to manage all of those people. How many times do we promote our salespeople and think that, and that's what happens. They teach us cookie cutter methods that don't work, and our numbers go pew, and our mindset goes pew, and it's just total crash and burn. I am passionate about it. I'm infuriated by it.
Okay, I am so with you on that. I'm fired up, in fact, because I think what happens so often is when you make that promotion for somebody who is not already hasn't been trained. Like the great thing about leadership is it is trainable. Anyone can be a great leader if you're working in training and helping them understand and have the awareness of some of these distinctions. But if that's not in place and you just take your best salesperson and promote her into a management position, what happens is she ends up teaching the whole team the way it works for her.
Yep.
And then you've got, so you are automatically going to leave out a bunch of your team members. But you know what? This happens across the board in every organization, not every organization, that's not fair, but it happens across the board in every industry, right? Where in every department where you have a manager who manages people the way they want to be managed instead of managing people the way those people need to be managed.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is that I think is so telling is, of course, the manager wants to be successful, right? They've been promoted into a new job and they think, well, I did A, B, and C. This is going to work for me. But here's the problem. Just because A, B, and C worked for you, as you stated, Heather, doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody else, but you are breaking foundation number 5. You are quite likely asking people to do something that may not be icky to you, but is icky to them. And if you were asking, icky is a real technical term, but if you were asking people to engage in an activity that makes them feel icky, sleazy, slimy, gross, like a bully, what kind of results are they going to have? I mean, it's common sense. The result is not going to be good because they're going to want to run from that icky, sleazy, slimy feeling. And so our managers have to, and our companies have to support our managers in learning how to manage people, introverts, extroverts, and maybe a combination of both. I think my daughter is an introvert and an extrovert, if that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, I think sales is an interesting part of business, because with most managers, supervisors, that are not part of the sales management team, if they're just in maybe customer service, there is a certain, I guess, way of teaching somebody on a consistent basis where you can plug people in and you can say, this is what you need to say and this is how you say it, on the phone, or how you treat somebody. I think it's much different. I believe that it's much different with sales managers, because you are dealing with so much more of the person, because you're dealing with self-worth. You're dealing with that self-talk. You're dealing with how they come in every day. It's not like with salespeople, until you get them to the point where you really had your system down on how you were selling. You knew what you were doing. You built the consistencies in. You were using the 5 steps that you have created. But for most, especially young salespeople, they're just trying to get their feet. And even salespeople that haven't performed well throughout the years, but they stick with it, they need more one-on-one time with that manager to really figure out and take, what are some of the great tips and tricks that she's used to build her business the way she has? How do you take some of that and put it in, but really make it fit for me personally, And I think that's one of it's much more customized. Sales is much more customized than I think people give it credit for. They just say, oh, well, you see a good salesperson, you say, well, just do what they do. Well, it's just not that easy a lot of times.
No,
maybe I'm making it
not
complicated. I don't know.
Well, no, I think so. And I think, I think it's a common misconception really across the board. I agree with you, Paul, that there are things like customer service where you can hand somebody a script. I agree. However, I think across the board, we do this industry by industry, where this person is a top performer. Let's emulate what this person did. Or, such and such ran a great campaign. Let's study the campaign and figure out everything they did that was successful. Or, it's in our human nature. And I learned that way. I love to look at what other people have done and say, great, this is what they did, but here's the part that gets left out. How do I take that and make it work for me? How do I adapt that and make it work for me so that it feels like helping, so that I'm able to honor that core belief of mine that I am serving others every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I want to hear, I'm going to switch subjects on us for a moment.
Okay.
The whole brand, Sell Like a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the sound of it. I like everything about it. But what does that mean in a nutshell?
So it's basically a Marilyn Monroe quote. It's basically women who seek to be equal to men lack ambition, or at least she's credited with saying that. And what I think that essentially what that means is we're not men. I mean, look at us, right? We are not men. And so, but if you think back historically, when women entered the workforce, the only other people that had been there were men. Mm-hmm. That's not right or wrong. It just is. Maybe it was wrong, but that just is, right? And so the only people we had to learn from on how to succeed in work, at home, and balancing all this was men. But the problem is we're wired differently. So the way Paul is going to succeed at home, managing whatever the demands of home and work are going to be different than the way you do, Heather, because of the differences in our DNA. And then you tack on survival of the fittest. So you tack on a little evolution to this. And what I mean by that is in the wild, when human beings didn't exist, but the way that we lived and survived was in packs. There was a pack of females and one male. And the male was the protector and that went off and hunted and whatever. And the females needed to stay in a group to survive. If you were ostracized from the group, you didn't make it because the protector wasn't there anymore. And so this explains so much of what we see in our kids and our young girls of needing to be in. My daughter says they don't use this word anymore, but in cliques or with their female. It's why we go to the bathroom in pairs. We need that protection. We have naturally selected for it, right or wrong, probably right because it kept us safe. And It is the difference in the way we do everything. We need to feel like part of something. Men don't necessarily. And so Sell Like a Woman embraces our differences. It doesn't say one's right or one's wrong. It just says, let's tap into what makes us different and see how we can use that to succeed.
Great.
The message that I have taken from you throughout this program today is all about just being you. Like, do you. Don't try to do it the way someone else does it. Tap into your strengths, be who you are, tap into the, even it's in our DNA to go to the bathroom together. I never knew that before, but now I get it.
Yeah, but absolutely. You're protecting yourself from the big bad world out there.
That's right. And it's a big bad world. So I just want to go back and review some of the tips that you've shared so far today that I think are really, really powerful. First and foremost, when Paul asked that great opening question about what is it that made you as successful as you were, I really got that you treated people as though you were going to their home. You treated people like I had to earn the right to be there. And I think that that's such a powerful message. And how often do we just get mechanical in what we do day in and day out instead of really being human and just embracing that relationship? So I feel like your sales strategy is very, very much relationship based.
100%. I read a book, or it may have been an article several years ago that said the relational cell is dead. And I literally threw my head back and laughed like a crazy woman because I thought, oh no, I'm alive and kicking, sweetheart. So yeah. And I think that if I could just expand on that just a little bit, one of the things I think that you do you have to be yourself. But when you enter somebody else's house, their rules matter. And so I can think of one specific time, and I cried after I left this office. I can think of one specific time where the physician came over and said, Kendrick, I've got patients in the room and you are so loud. And I am loud. And she's like, I just don't want them to know that I am out here while they're in the room talking to a drug rep. It was her house, her rules. I respected that. I get it. I still cried. Maybe I was embarrassed. Maybe but I could have gone into the whole, well, this is who I am and blah, blah, blah. But it was her house, her rules. I had needed to earn the right to be there. And so I think that absolutely you do you, but also realize that especially when you're selling, you're in somebody else's territory, you're on somebody else's turf, and they get to be the boss. You are a guest there. They can kick you out, especially in the pharmaceutical industry, just as easily as they can let you through that door.
Awesome. I love that you said that because it is so in line with what we teach, what we preach, which is dynamic adaptation, right? Really understanding your environment, your audience, and who do you need to be for them. So it's like that dance of, I've got to find out what works best for me and try not to be someone else, be my style, and yet honor and respect who other people are, honor and respect the rules, the environment, and that everyone is a little bit different. So you have different rules as you enter. And you said, like in the South. So we grew up in the Chicago area. Manners were not at the top of our list, but what a difference that makes, right? To just respect the rules of someone else's home.
And I'll say one other thing about that. I sold in Chicago. So I went from selling in Atlanta, Georgia to selling in Chicago, and geographical differences matter.
Yeah,
so I grew up saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, maybe even to people who were younger than me. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir. I can remember the first time I said yes, sir to a doctor in Chicago, I got an ASS chewing. He said, no. I am not sir. I do not want to be sir. That is an insult to me. I may be younger than you. Do not bring your Southern manners up here because we don't want any.
Ooh.
Wow.
And I cried after that too. But I realized that, okay, their rules, their house, I'm not going to get rid of this Southern accent. It's who I am. But if you don't want to be addressed as yes, ma'am, yes, sir, I cut it out of my vocabulary.
What's so fun is that in reflection, we find out that a lot of your reflection can include tears. It's okay, right? Like you have a bad day and you go out and you have your tears and then you learn from it and then you move forward. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is Kendrick Shope, and thank you so much for being a part of our Evolve to Win show. We've learned so much from you, and I think the audience has as well. This has really been great. I love the topic of selling, and I love that you've made it very sensible, very easy to understand, breaking it down into your 5 steps. Let's just review the 5 steps.
Yeah, the 5 steps. So belief, let me see if I got them
Are they
all down.
steps?
I call them foundations.
Foundations.
So I sold lumber for a little while, and you need a good solid foundation to build a house. So foundations.
All right.
Foundations.
So this, I was taking notes like Matt as you're talking. So that base foundation is belief. And we talked about that when I asked about mindset as well. And I love that you talked about how your best managers were those who helped you believe in you. I look through my entire career, and those people stand out like shining stars for me, because I always, like when I'm down, I need to borrow belief because sometimes I can't muster my own. So loved that. Number 2, I have consistency, and that's the whole cockroach theory, right? Just you got to be consistent and follow your route and make it easy, make it habitual, right? Number 3, follow up. 50% of all sales happen in follow up. I know I am guilty of not following up as much as I should. There are times where I'm really good and really consistent, and times where I fall down. So great reminder there. Number 4, create a raving fan with every interaction. And you talked about ways that you could create those raving fans, not just with your direct client, but let people throughout the office know who they are and that you value them. And then the last one, which is your core foundation, is when it's icky, sleazy, slimy, when it doesn't feel good, find a better way. And that's really about tapping into who you are and tapping into your strengths and do what works best for you. Because if you're showing up and feeling icky, sleazy, slimy, that's going to show for them too, and they won't know why. But you're going to be inconsistent with your words and your feelings. So I loved your 5 foundations, and I loved having you on the show. How can people reach out to you? How can they find more?
Thank you. You get an A+, by the way.
Thanks.
Like absolute fabulous. I would expect nothing less. So people can find me at kendrickshope.com. We have a host of free resources. There's a contact form there. Obviously, I'm a relationship builder, so I love to meet people and engage with people. And that's the best way to find me, kendrickshope.com, or I am all over social media, because remember, I crave interaction like people crave air.
That's right. Kendrick actually wants to talk to you. She wants to talk to us. So,
and that's SHOPE.
Right.
Nope.
Shop with an E. You got it.
Shop with an E. And we'll put those in the show notes as well. Kendrick, is there anything else that you would say before we wrap up today that would be something that people who are in sales need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, and this is the core, I think, of the message after, if you feel the ick, find a better way, is that I believe in you. I may not know you, but I believe in your ability to impact this world in a positive way. And every day that you step foot, regardless of what you're selling, regardless of what you're doing, even if you're not in sales, and you say, I'm going to start my day by impacting somebody's world in a positive way, you have changed the world. Think if we all did that every single day, what this world would be like. So I believe in you. I may not know you, but I feel you, and I believe in you.
Well, you made a massive impact on this world. Who knows how many times over by sharing this. And I'm just so grateful that we get to be a distribution channel for your message. So
thank you very much.
We appreciate you. We appreciate all that you do to impact the world. You're making a massive difference. And I hope that our listeners will reach out to you and connect with you and really get engaged with your show too. I mean, I'm so motivated. I'm going to get out there and make some follow-up calls right now.
I love it. I love it. And it is my total pleasure. I love what you all are doing, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendrick.
Have a great day.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Evolve to Win show with Heather and Paul, produced in partnership with Gulf Shore Business Magazine.